Welcome to the February 3rd, 2021 edition of the Whitestown Fire Board meeting. Welcome everybody. Good evening. Thanks for joining. My name is Rob Worrell. This is my second year, first term on the Whitestown Town Council. I'm a resident of Eagles Nest. We've been living here for about 10 years now. I've my wife, Courtney, and 4 kids. So just an honor to be on the board, serving with you all. And, you know, my job's just to stay out of the way of all the progress and good things you guys are doing. So I appreciate everybody being on this year. We will start with roll call. And Kyle, can you do that? He's on mute.
Yes, I can. There we go. All right, I'll start with you, Rob.
Here.
Jeff?
Here.
Yeah. All right, Michelle? Me, Kyle? Yes. Jim?
Present.
Andrew?
Here.
Okay.
All right. And we'll have Glenn play our video for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Hey, Rob, before we do that, we've got one person. He's the member from the non-voting member from the township. And his name is Casey Copeland.
Yeah.
And I don't think we might want to make sure we remember on the roll call to add his name on there.
It is. I just skipped it.
I don't think he's on today.
Okay. I just missed it this time, so I'll make a note of
I just
that.
want to make sure everybody was aware of that.
Gotcha.
All right, and we'll have Glenn play our video for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America,
to the republic for which it stands,
one nation,
under God,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Glenn. I need to make one change to the agenda, and that'll be the election of a secretary. So we'll add that to the agenda. Okay. And then so based on that, I think we'll have a motion for approval of the agenda.
I'll motion. So moved.
Okay, we have a motion and a second.
I'll second.
Okay. And do we call the roll on this one? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I'll go ahead and
Yep.
roll.
All right. Rob?
Yes.
Me, yes. Kyle, sorry. Jim?
Yes.
Andrew?
Yes.
And Jeff. Did I say Jeff right?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
sorry. Went back through again. There we go.
Okay. All right, so that'll bring us to the election of the secretary, and we'll take nominations for that.
I will go ahead and nominate Kyle Anderson to be secretary.
I will second that.
And thank you, Kyle.
No problem.
All right, we have motion and second. We'll go ahead and call roll for the vote.
All right, Rob.
Before we do that, I'll make a motion that nominations be closed.
Thanks, Jim.
Okay, so continue with the roll. All right, Rob.
Yes.
Kyle, yes. Jim.
Aye.
Andrew.
Yes.
Jeff.
Yes.
All right, excellent. Thank you, Kyle, for serving in that role again.
No problem.
Okay, next item agenda is approval of the minutes. Are there any questions on the minutes and how they were submitted? Okay, and I'll entertain a motion to approve.
I'll motion to approve the minutes.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All right, Kyle, call the roll.
All right. Jim?
Aye.
Kyle? Aye. Andrew?
Yes.
Jeff?
Yes.
And Rob?
Yes. All right, our next item on the agenda is public request to speak. Did we get any requests from the public to speak today?
No, I don't have any.
Okay.
I've received nothing in the chat line for anyone to speak.
Okay. All right. And presentations, I see none. Still that way, Chief?
Correct.
All right. Okay. We'll move on to statistics and updates. Chief, you want to take that?
Okay. Hopefully you all received the attachments for this meeting. Apologize for sending a couple of them multiple times, but wanted to keep them in the same spot to make it easier. But for the annual report, or sorry, the monthly report, inspection and prevention, you'll see that we started in full force with our annual building inspections with 47 completed. There's 36 different new building inspections, 3 of those, 7 plan reviews. So things are still progressing as far as building and growth, and we're keeping up with that well. The public education and PR portion, we did publish 4 new videos to YouTube. This came out for our WFD Burn series. They're where we utilized a house that was donated for live fire training, that we did kind of some scientific tests and such with some and cameras and whatnot. But they are the get out, basically talking about the importance of getting out quickly when there's a fire. One about smoke detectors, one of what we see as firefighters going into a structure, and then another one on close your door at night. So even though we're not able to get out in the community like we usually do, we're still trying to keep up with that on our social media to make sure we're putting out as much as possible still to have that education component. Under additional, we obviously continuing our response to the COVID-19 pandemic and dealing with all the changes that come with that. We completed our DAR emotion screening for all our employees as part of our wellness. Distributed annual awards in lieu of a banquet. So the staff went to each firehouse and each shift and gave out the awards we normally give out and recognize them since we can't all get together. We completed mass fit testing for all our personnel this month. That's an annual requirement. And we also completed our engineer certification testing, which is what we send our personnel through that want to be driver operators of our trucks. Next page, we have the billing report. The revenue for January was $12,779. It is a 39% decrease from where we were at last year. But if you look at the chart in the past, since 2017 that's listed on this chart, you can see we're still high enough in the middle. We had an abnormally high January month, so we're not concerned with that negative 39%. Moving on to the last here, we have the fire, our total runs to date. We're 88 for the month. So all we have right now, so year to date is the same. The different call types for responders, and then the EMS breakdown as well. It's a 7 run increase in January of 2020, so we're 8.6% higher, or an increase from the run perspective. Any questions? That's all I have for the monthly report.
Any questions for Chief? Okay. Chief, forgive me if I missed this, but with the awards, did we get that out on social media to recognize those folks, or is that something we can do?
Yes, I believe there was a list posted out.
Okay, I may have missed that. That's good to hear. Anything else? Okay. And just to circle back, who was the member that was non-voting that we were missing?
Casey Copeland.
I see Casey's in the participant, so if we can
Okay.
mark Casey.
Make a note of that. Got it.
Welcome, Casey. Okay, thank you, Chief. Unfinished business, I see none. We'll move on to new business, and we have the annual report and consideration of 2021 goals.
Okay, I combined these both together to kind of develop a summary here. That is something we do every year as far as putting an annual report out and obviously getting the goals for 2021 approved. But starting with the annual report, 2020 was obviously a rough, challenging year. But our personnel met the challenge and exceeded expectations while navigating additional personal protection measures, quick changing operations, tactics, changing all the time, sometimes multiple times within the same day, exposure testing and quarantines we had to deal with, and the overall added stress of the unknown, essentially, that this pandemic had to endure. So it didn't stop us from completing several accomplishments throughout the year. We hired our 4 new firefighters, putting them through first ever training academy that included state certifications for firefighter, EMT, and hazmat. We increased our daily level by hiring new personnel by 1 firefighter per shift. We also completed technician level rope rescue certification for all the personnel, having a completely new solution provided to the community. With all the addition of taller building infrastructure coming in, the potential for elevated rescue has increased, so we are now able to meet potential. After extensive and equipment mounting, we were finally able to place our new tower ladder into service. This also brings a new level of service to the community, and having a bucket on the end of an aerial ladder, which directly affects potential rescues, and how we affect those rescues of our residents and visitors in the taller structures that we have. We've continued to monitor the construction of the new headquarters in Station 272. We all know that it wasn't completed or hasn't been completed yet like it was supposed to be last year, but we're still continuing to press on with that. Last year, we responded to a total of 1,037 incidents, which is a 3% overall increase from the previous year. 42% of those calls were fire related and other responses, and 58% were emergency medical runs. With the leading reasons of those EMS runs were being cardiac, abdominal issues, and difficulty breathing in nature. Utilizing current personnel, we're able to add support positions to mitigate the increasing responsibility of our EMS management. So in other words, we needed additional personnel to help out with EMS training, inventory, purchasing, and our quality assurance. It was getting too much for one person to handle who was also a firefighter on shift. So we increased that. We also incorporated high pressure misting devices and UVC light decontamination units to combat the potential spread after responses and in the firehouses for the COVID virus. We also completed over 13,000 hours of training, over 700 hours of fire training, 2,200 of EMS, and 2,600 of new recruit training. Another highlight of that was through donations of property and use of the Boone County Training Tower. We were able to complete over 51 scenarios of live fire training. It's very valuable training that we were blessed to have quite a bit of last year for all our personnel. And despite the major delay in the beginning to middle of the year, the fire marshal was able to complete all the necessary annual and new building inspections, as well as all of the new structure inspections that are needed. Overall, our annual inspection saw an increase of 14%, with a total of 345 conducted last year. Public education, the last group here, it took the biggest hit of the pandemic, obviously due to social distancing and event cancellations. But in spite of this, we were still able to produce our Stop the Bleed kits to be distributed to schools and child care facilities in the district. And we're going to keep in touch with them and back that up with the appropriate training to follow when we are able to do so. We implemented autism comfort kits for our apparatus that we added, just with some simple toys and devices and fidget type things and earmuffs, blankets, things like that, that children or anyone on the autism spectrum may need to feel a bit more comfortable. So it was really nice to be able to work with our local management there at BACA to get this completed. We also created some public education videos and tried to maintain as much presence as possible via the social media on that. So that is the annual report summary. Any questions regarding that portion?
Had a few things happen in 2020, huh?
Couple.
Chief, I don't have any questions, but I would just like to say that with all the oddities, I guess that's the best way to put it, of 2020, I think that you and your staff have done an outstanding job of keeping people informed and putting information out there. So I would like to thank you and your staff and all of the members of the Whitestown Fire Department for all they've done in a very, very trying year.
I appreciate that.
Absolutely. Well said, John.
Second that.
Okay. And then we'll go on to the 2021 goals.
So you all received the 2021 goals as well. Excuse me. To not go through each of them on there because it is a lengthy list, hit kind of the highlights of some of each of the sections there. The administrative section, we want to continue to evaluate and mitigate our response to the pandemic. We have to keep that on the forefront to make sure we keep all our personnel and the community as healthy as possible. We'd like to hire, or we are working on hiring, an EMS division chief and executive assistant. Those processes are currently ongoing, and we're hoping to complete them and have that timed for the opening of the new station, which is one of the other ones, obviously, that's on our list, is to complete that project. We want to continue to look for property and plan for an additional station and potentially training grounds as well. And also, we'd like to implement our replacement plan for staff vehicles, the battalion chief vehicle, and the ambulance. Operationally, we want to develop a full emergency operations center and have those capabilities at the new facility, including developing an annual EOC drill for the town to kind of put all the emergency operations plans in effect and make sure everyone's up to speed with those. Expand our base arrival standard operating guidelines to our neighboring agencies and adjacent counties, simply meaning that we want to kind of get everyone on the same page as we respond with each other to assist each other, that we're working with the same kind of operational format, if you will, when we arrive on the scene of something. Currently, we have that between our neighboring departments now. The operations chiefs are all getting together to put that together on a wider scale. We also want to work with our neighboring agencies to expand automatic aid responses to make sure we have our optimal response to all emergency calls. Training, we want to continue all monthly trainings for fire and EMS, including a minimum of 3 live fire training drills. We want to conduct machinery extrication training for all personnel, develop engineer workshops to continue development of our driver operators, and ensure ISO training requirements are met. Prevention and public education, we want to conclude the development of the fire prevention ordinance, develop new and update existing quick action plans for all businesses in the jurisdiction, explore community partnerships for a future public education annex at the new facility. It's kind of a lofty goal, but one we want to start laying some groundwork to see if there's even some possibility to make something like that happen. And also, we want to re-engage public education activities as the situation allows, including our new REACT training that has been put on hold since early last year. So those are the highlights of the goals I've submitted.
You know, as always, Chief, you have a lot of goals, and it's amazing how much you get done. So I applaud your efforts and what you do.
Thanks, but I can't take all the credit. I've got an excellent staff from the bottom up, top down, however you want to look at it, that help us get all this done.
Absolutely.
Good. So should we entertain a motion to adopt the 2021 goals as presented?
So moved.
Okay, with motion, is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Any further discussion? All right. Kyle, could you call the roll?
Yep. Rob,
Yes.
Jeff,
Yes.
Jim,
Aye.
Andrew,
Yes.
and Kyle. Aye.
All right. Lots to do. I'm sure we'll get it done. So thank you, Chief. We'll go under new business item E, discussion of additional appropriation 2020 lease invoice.
Okay, so there's no document to go along with this, but at some point last year, we overlooked and did not receive an invoice for one of our apparatus lease payments. That showed up in January via email, and we handled it and paid it promptly. But we were unable to use the 2020 funds that were assigned for this. So to correct this and give us enough money within the budget for this year's payment that comes up in October, looking for a recommendation to council to proceed with the additional appropriation of the money that was in the debt service line that went into the fire cash reserves, to have that additionally appropriated into the 2021 budget to calculate for the error and not paying for it out of the correct year. And another thing too, if you so move this to a favorable recommendation to council, it may not come up next month. I would likely reach out to Reedy Accounting and have them add it to whenever the next appropriate additional appropriation is, since that takes advertising and this and that. We're not in a rush for this. Like I said, the invoice for this year is not due until the end of October, but wanted to at least get this moving in the right direction and get this out so we can correct the situation.
So was there money left over in the budget last year and it just didn't get spent, or was there no money in the budget?
No, there was money in the budget. We did not receive the invoice and overlooked that we hadn't received it yet.
So it was not paid, nor was it accrued.
So didn't I forget the terminology, but I think there's a process for this, right? So that's what you're just asking us to follow, that process.
Correct.
To get yeah. All right. Yeah, as long as the money's there and we have it, we need to do it. So I'd support it.
Okay. Any other comments?
Jeff, was that a motion?
Yeah, let's make it a motion to send to council for approval.
I'll second.
Okay. Go ahead, Kyle.
All right. Then roll call here. I'll do Rob.
Before, is there any other comments?
Sorry.
Okay, we're good. All right. Then we'll take roll call, and I vote yes.
Okay. Jim.
Aye.
Andrew.
Yes.
Jeff.
Yes.
And Kyle. Aye.
Excellent. Okay, we'll go to item F, discussion of new ambulance lease purchase.
Okay, so in going along with the typical ambulance replacement, it's every 5 years for an ambulance. Our ambulance is not necessarily on its last leg, but it is 5 years old now. And the most important aspect of this is our backup ambulance is completely out of service. It developed an issue with the head gasket and some other things, and the maintenance costs outweigh what the worth of the apparatus is. So we only have our ambulance currently. So if we were to go down for a maintenance reason on that, we'd have to borrow an ambulance to keep that in service. But also coupling along with the typical replacement plan, our lease has been currently paid out of our EMS revenue budget. So that lease payment has been paid every year. And this year is the last payment for that. So this lease for our current ambulance will go away this year. So we are looking to start an ambulance spec committee to get that done and be prepared to put it out to bid and continue a new lease with a new ambulance. If this goes through, our new ambulance would become the frontline apparatus, and our current ambulance would go to a backup or reserve status until the point where we're ready to put a second ambulance into service. You'll see on some of the documents I gave here, the one at the top for a potential $300,000. This is a lofty budgeted amount for this. Typically, ambulances run around the 200,000 mark, but there is also equipment that we would want to put into that as well, such as a new defibrillator, which is a $30,000 piece. The new standards on cots are, and the loading portions of that are an expensive measure as well, upwards of $25,000 or more. We don't have any official numbers yet. We're just looking at getting the committee together. So I wanted to kind of bring this up for a discussion and see if I have the support to continue.
Any questions?
When is our current lease up with the one you have?
We make our last payment this year.
Right, I think you said that. So this would just be we would just acquire the new vehicle and just continue lease payments as that one expires, type of a deal?
We would have to put it to bid and then do another lease with that, but the payments are in arrears. So we could purchase the ambulance this year and our first payment not be due until the 2022 budget.
All right, and then so we wouldn't have double payments. We would just have new payments. Correct. At that point.
Correct.
And then we'd have the old vehicle. Are we going to do a lease buyout on the old one?
Once we make this last payment this year, I know they call them leases, but it's simply a loan. We will own it outright. So there's no buyout or giving back. I'm not sure why it's phrased that way. It's always confused me, but it's
right.
simply a loan.
Okay, so yeah, I'm sorry if other people have questions. That's fine. I just was curious because so then we'll have an asset and we'll have a new one. How close are you to wanting to put a second unit in service?
Well, we were shooting to aim for that this year, but along with putting the second ambulance in service, it would require 6 personnel to be added. That was not possible with the increase this year. We'd like to continue to look at that next year. We're continuing to monitor our EMS runs and our back-to-back transports, and we're always evaluating that need as we work towards adding that service, along with adding personnel to work towards that third station as well.
Is any of the equipment on the reserve one able to be transferred to the new one?
Possibly. Obviously it could, with the exception of some of the cot stuff. The monitor we have currently is kind of nearing its end of life, kind of refurb status. So having an additional defibrillator in that regard would be a good thing in my opinion. Also utilizing the EMS revenue that we get. This wouldn't be coming out of our operating funds. And it is possible that we may propose to use some of our revenue that we have from years past that we haven't spent to utilize to purchase some of that equipment as to not tie it into the lease. to bring that lease amount down to where we're not paying as much interest and so on.
I think that would be good. Yeah, what I'm thinking is I don't mind taking over a new lease personally. I'm sure other people have opinions too, but as much as we can reuse what we have to save it, and then to reuse what's possible, right? If it's not possible, I understand, or if it's bolted down or it's a different type of equipment for the new vehicle, but anything we could do to spend less money while we do this is all I'd say I think we need to do, right? Other than that, I support it.
Yeah, I appreciate your viewpoint and your points, Jeff. And I heard Chief say that it pays for itself with the run fees, so that's good as well. And then I would want to be cautious on depleting the backup and then having to remember to move stuff if we have to use the backup, to have to get it out of the new one and into the backup, and you know, something's forgotten. So just want to be cautious on that end as well. Okay.
Makes sense.
Chief, is there a need for a vote, or is this just open discussion?
This was just kind of getting the blessing to move forward before we really start digging into the spec process. That is quite a lot to be involved with and to get going. So wanted to make sure at least we had a positive direction, I guess, from the board to continue before we put that work in.
Chief,
how many quotes, if you will, do you have to get to be able to until you can actually make a decision when that process starts?
So it actually has to go out in the bid process because it's over $150,000. So basically we have to advertise, this is what we want, here's our spec, and anyone and everyone. We could get one person to send something in. We could get 10. You just never know how that works, but there is a statutory bid process that we will have to go through.
Okay, so it's a bid process, not necessarily you have to receive X number of bids. It's just you have to put it open to a bid.
Correct. And I think Brad wants to
yeah,
say
that's actually, that was exactly, I was just about to jump in because you had mentioned and said bids at least twice. And I was just going to say exactly what the chief just said, that because it's over 150,000, there's a statutory procedure to follow. And yeah, what you said was correct, Chief. You've got to put it out to bid and advertise. There's a bunch of different, open the bids at a set time. It's all laid out by statute.
Okay, thank you for that.
And trust me, I will be using Brad for this.
So Brad, I got a question for you. Is this something that requires a motion from the board, or is this something we can just give Chief the nod to go ahead and, because he's not actually buying anything at this point?
Yes, I mean, at this point, you definitely need your approval before you start the official process of getting the bid. And there's even a statutory process for developing the specs. But at this point, since he's not they're just at the point of trying to figure out what they want the specs to be, there's nothing that would need to be approved at this point.
Okay. Thank you.
No problem. And Chief, as you work on it, there's a statutory procedure for developing specifications as well.
Okay. So no need for a vote, but I think we're all in agreement to go ahead and start that process, and anxious to see what you come back with. All right. We'll go to item G, discussion of staff vehicle replacement lease.
So kind of similar with the ambulance lease we just discussed. This is our year to continue with our staff vehicle lease, as the police department has done for several years now. This is our first 5-year term. I know there's kind of overlap because they have a lot more vehicles in that situation, but we're working on a replacement plan for that as well. There's also potential lease payments here on the same document as the ambulance lease was that I sent there. But again, that's another process that we're just wanting to work towards to currently have on that rotation. We do not, our lease was paid off last year. So the money is in the budget for this year to continue that. It's just something we've had year to year. So this would essentially be continuing on with that.
And is this really a lease or not a lease?
It's not a not a lease, but a lease.
Okay.
So we do own all 5 vehicles now.
What's the legal term for not a lease, but a lease?
A purchase?
Lease purchase.
You know, actually, the legislature may be to blame. The definition of purchase under Indiana law includes both a sale and a lease. So they're
okay
under Indiana law.
It's all good. I just think it's funny that we can't call it a purchase.
I have a question about that, just out of curiosity. What happens with the old vehicles? Are they resale value, or do you keep those as inventory, or what do you do with those?
So we are actually looking into keeping 2, possibly 3 of the 5 vehicles, just for new pool vehicles that we have that we could have to use for that. We would only have minimal maintenance and insurance costs to maintain those. The other 2, we would get declared surplus through that statutory process and look to sell them at auction.
Question. And did you say the police also have vehicles up for lease?
They rotate a section of theirs every year, I believe.
And is that something you can partner together with, or are the specs different?
They purchase Tahoes. We purchase the 1,500 pickup trucks. And the main reason for going with the pickup trucks is to keep our gear and the carcinogens that come off of used gear away from the passenger compartment of the vehicle. So that's kind of why we've made that change. And we like to try and go off the state bid for those, the cooperative purchasing for that. So again, that's one of the things we're working on right now, of figuring out what direction we want to go with that. And I'll be reaching out to Brad for the legal help on that as well. So.
Any other questions? Brad, same deal. Just we tell him to go ahead and start the process.
Yeah, as long as he's at the information gathering stage, and yeah, it'd be a different process than with the ambulance because it's on that on a state purchasing order, and but yeah, as long as he's just gathering information and is going to come back when it's time to really purchase it, then yeah, you don't need a formal motion right now.
Okay, perfect. All right, if there's nothing else, we'll move on to point H, discussion of battalion vehicle replacement. This one says purchase.
Okay, so this is the third part of all the apparatus movement. Currently, our battalion chief vehicle is one of our staff vehicles. If you remember, a couple years ago, we bought a training truck, a bigger, heavier duty truck for pulling the training trailer and hauling training equipment around. Rather than the 1,500, we have a 1-ton truck for that. With that being said, that extra vehicle now is the battalion vehicle because we needed one at that kind of same time as we were purchasing. We'd like to propose the same thing. They need kind of a beefier vehicle that can put up with the heavier duty response, along with additional equipment that they could carry. And also we need an extra vehicle for the EMS division chief person we're adding. So we would still be at 5 vehicles on the lease, plus our training truck would cover all of our staff. And then we simply purchase outright a battalion vehicle for that and not put that on a lease. So that is something that I just wanted to bring up that we are looking to propose. We're currently trying to find availability and price numbers. And I'd like to bring you that in the future. We're also waiting to see the finalized budget as well to make sure everything's good there before I say, hey, we have the capital to do it. We should have more than enough capital to make this purchase, but we're just kind of in the later stages of planning and research.
Okay. Any other questions? Good. All right, and the last item under new business, item I, consideration of purchase exceeding 5,000, not to exceed 9,000 for training monitors, PSIN monitors, and TVs for new station.
So this one's kind of self-explanatory. Other than I want to thank Rob for catching a couple of clerical errors on the spreadsheet itself. It says 47 inches on the left-hand side, and it should be the 50-inch class that's on the other. These are kind of budgetary numbers we looked at while looking through. These are to outfit the new station, the new rooms, new positions, things like that. This also covers additional training monitors for our training classroom that we'll have. It covers our PSIN monitors, which is our closed caption run alerting TV network, if you will, that we have throughout the firehouse. So this is simply a purchase out of our operating budget to make this.
And these are smart TVs?
Correct.
And these are all covered in the budget, correct, Chief?
Correct.
Okay.
Not within the construction budget, if that's what you're asking. Let me clarify. This would be just out of our operating budget, and we have planned to make some of the minor purchases out of our operating budget to outfit the station, rather than putting some of this in with the finishes and furnishings there out of the construction budget.
Okay. Any questions? Okay. The only comment I had, I saw a number for 32 inches, and just wanted to, I would encourage you, Josh, to look at the value of the 32 versus the next size up. As the prices are coming down, the cost per inch, we'll call it, improves. So if 32 is what you need, but maybe there's a little bit more value, I appreciate you, being cognizant of our resources and the taxpayers' monies. But at the same time, I just want to make sure we're getting the right value for what we need. So if 32 is good, if not, maybe a little bigger, just take a second look at those.
Okay. And there's definitely budgetary room built in this not to exceed 9,000.
Yeah.
This was kind of the best I could do with fluctuating prices.
You wait for Prime Day.
Right.
All right.
Awesome.
So this one will need approval on, so would entertain a motion to approve this consideration of a purchase exceeding 5,000, not to exceed 9,000.
I'll make a motion.
Okay, we have a motion. We have a second.
I'll second.
All right. Any further discussion? All right. Kyle, can you call the roll?
Yep. Rob?
Yes.
Jim?
Aye.
Andrew?
Yes.
Jeff?
Yes.
And then Kyle? Yes.
That brings us to the end of new business. We'll move on to other business. This is the station and headquarters update.
Okay, so we talked about having the recent or updated completion schedule given to us in early December that had us labeled or scheduled out to the end of March. I am actually happy to say at this point that we are on track for that date as we speak. It is a day-by-day thing, but so far so good. So we're going to take the wins with this, even though we're 5 months behind at least. Like I said, got to take the wins that you can get. The drywall is completely hung and finished. I'd say it's about 50% painted. I believe they're on track to start some of the finishing and casework next week. The only concern I have a little bit on would be the masonry, but they're working through it. But winter has also decided to show up. So we'll see how that goes. Fingers crossed on that, but that's the update I have.
You know, Chief, one thing I would say is maybe we chalk this up to a learning experience. And when it comes time to move forward with a new station, if that happens and when that happens, we take some of these lessons learned and make sure that we maybe put some safeguards in place to ensure that we keep things a little bit more on schedule.
I couldn't agree more, and I can tell you, I got a notebook full of lessons learned and things to change and whatnot. Honestly, I think the biggest lesson here is not to utilize the same contractor and the same contractors for 2 major projects. That initially put us behind, I would say, and some of their project management and value engineering things to get us within the budget kind of hampered us, but
Chief, I know you've been working hard to keep them accountable and keep them on track and working hard with that. So I appreciate those efforts, and Jim, appreciate that call out for going forward. All right. Any other business to bring up or topics to address? Okay. If not, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll move that we adjourn.
I have a motion a second. Second. Kyle, one more time. You're muted, bud.
Rob?
Yes.
Jeff?
Yes.
Jim?
Aye.
Andrew?
Yes.
And Kyle, yes.
Excellent. Well, we are adjourned. Have a great evening, and we'll
All right. See you next month.
Have a good night.
Take care, y'all.
Have a good one.
Bye.